Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. This is episode 2 in building and growing a vegetable garden. So in the first video, which I will link in the description and in iCards, I recommended building a 16 foot by 16 foot space. If you have the money or you have the time, you can absolutely put up fence. If not, just plot out a 16 by 16 foot square space. We built the beds. Today we're going to talk about how you can fill the beds in different ways on different budgets. I will link a video that talks about everything that you see here, what the different garden products are. I don't want to go over all of them because it'll just make this video too long. But we're going to fill a 4x4 raised bed, 4 feet by 4 feet, right over here. And I'm going to talk about ways you can do it the most inexpensive way and a more expensive way. And you can just pick whatever works. And again, you don't have to fill and build something this size. You can start with a space, just put in a 4 foot by 4 foot bed. Later on, if you like it, add in a 6 foot by 4 foot bed, which is right there, and then you can just expand slowly. You don't have to start with everything in here. So we're going to start by filling a bed this size, and I highly recommend using peat moss. You can get a bale of peat moss, 2 cubic feet, for about $14 here in the States, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart. If you don't want to use peat moss, you could use cocoa coir. We're not going to put a lot of fertilizer into the soil. We're not going to put a lot of compost into the soil. We're just going to fill the beds, and I'll show you tricks on how to really give the nutrients, the fertilizers to your plants as they're growing on the first year, and then we'll use compost and other amendments to build the beds over the years. We're going to throw down manures in the bottom of the bed, and the reason we're going to do that is because when you buy bagged cow manures, bagged composts, you don't really know how well they are fully broken down 100%, fully composted down. Which means is when you buy the bag stuff, it can say compost and manure just like that, but it could be in the middle of composting down, it could just be starting to compost down. It doesn't mean it's fully broken down. And the reason that you want compost that's fully broken down is because if you don't, you're going to put in all this organic matter. It's going to continue to break down, and it's going to take nitrogen from the area, which if it takes nitrogen, it's going to compete with your plants. It's going to impact your plants. So we're just going to put manures down on the bottom, and then we're going to put a combination of soil and peat moss on the top. Okay, let me set up and I'll show you how we do it a couple different ways. Right. So now you're right. I did say we're not going to add fertilizer into the garden. What I meant is we're not going to add it in the top 10 inches, 12 inches right now. So this bed is 12 inches high, the other one is 10 inches high. I use pressure treated wood. It's copper treated. It's not like the old arsenic from 20 years ago. I'm not worried about leaching, but if you don't like using pressure treated wood, pick whatever you like. We are going to put the composted manures on the bottom. That's going to be below the root system. It's not going to compete with the plants that we put up here. And by the time the roots get down here, nature will have helped will have helped to break this compost down, and it's going to feed the plants rather than compete with the plants. So in a 4x4 space, any bag, compost, manure combination, just straight compost, whatever you want. It can be an animal manure, it can be plant-based, just one bag. And what I recommend is you get to know the product. I don't specifically recommend Black Cow or anything I'm using here. Just get to know the products, what they're like, and then you just adapt as you use them in the garden. But again, by putting the composted manures, the bag stuff down on the bottom, it's not going to interfere with the plants up here. So just spread it out. And that's all we do to put some fertilizer down on the bottom. I like growing on top of wood chips. Again, you don't have to do this. This is just one way to build a garden, but I'm kind of bringing in all the principles that I've used over 20 years that are really successful. And with time, these wood chips, even though they're large, are going to break down. The shredded hardwood's going to break down. It will give back to your plant. This also holds a lot of moisture, means you have to water less as your plants get bigger. All right, so the manures are down, the compost is down, whatever you want to use. Now let's fill the bed with a couple different products. So I thought I would talk about the bagged products first. Now, you may or may not have the budget to buy the bagged products, but you may want to because you don't have the time to really build the soil, as I'm going to show you with the peat moss that's over there, and using your soil from around the yard or your dirt from around the yard, whatever you want to call it. So first thing, potting mix is the most expensive. It's really a combination of soil and peat moss. We're going to make our own. That's how you save money. That's garden soil. That's a form of garden soil. They are basically just a lesser version of the potting mix. So I wouldn't spend the money on a potting mix, but you could. It's going to be great, nice and loose. If you're going to fill it, use something that says ground soil, or the one back there says garden soil. Now, in a 4x4 foot space, you're going to need, and basically you just look at it this way. This is 35 liters, or about 1.3 cubic feet, or this says 32 quarts. It's really confusing, but just go, here's my hand, and you can kind of judge it that way. A bag about this size, you're going to need 1, 2, 3 for here, 1, 2, 3 over there, 1, 2, 3 in the back, 1, 2, 3 in the corner. That's 3, 6, 9, 12, and then you're going to have to go with the middle, another 3. So you're going to need 15 bags to fill a space that's 12 inches high, 4 feet by 4 feet wide. And again, any of these bags, you're going to need 15 of the bags, and it's going to work perfectly well. Now, all of these have some sort of fertilizer in there. Like this one says feeds up to, what is that, 9 months? This one says guaranteed up to 2 times more bounty, and that feeds, I don't see it on there, but it feeds for, X amount of months. This one has feed in it for 9 months. All different companies. I wouldn't worry about it. Just pick whatever is the least expensive, works for your budget, and that's how you would fill the beds using the bag products. This is probably the most expensive way, but your plants will do really well. It'll get you set up, and then if you follow this series, I'll show you how to take care of the soil over the first year and years after that. All right, so now let's get to the peat moss and using garden soil from your yard to fill this up. All right, so we're going with the least expensive way to fill this. So you're going to need a wheelbarrow. If you don't, it's a lot of work. So the first full barrel full can be any dirt you want. I have red clay soil. This is not red because I actually have a local landscaping company that will dump garden soil off. So if you're going to order it, it's a lot cheaper than buying it bagged. You don't want to order topsoil. You want to ask them about their garden soil and just have it dumped. So this is garden soil. First full barrel full is just going to be dumped right into the bottom. We're kind of making layers. We have wood chips on the bottom, thin layer of manures, and then garden soil on top of there. If I was going to go through my yard and kind of dig trenches, and maybe where I have flower beds, take all that dirt, take all that material, and that would be your first layer. It could be anything you want. It could be red clay, it could be garden soil like I have, but we're just going to put that down, help fill the bed, and then we're going to mix, in my case, it'll be garden soil, about 50% peat moss, and that will finish out the bed. Any soil you have around your home will work using this method. All right, so it's a bit of work moving the soil. It's a good workout. You do need a wheelbarrow. Let me just dump it in real quick. Grab the barrel from over here. And it's really heavy. You may have to do 2 half trips, but just dump it in. Doesn't matter if you've got some roots in there, some plants in there. That's going to be the middle layer. And we're just going to get in here and lay it evenly out. Across the bed. Now you can see we're working our way up. Another full barrel full and a full thing of peat moss is going to fill this up, and that's all we're doing. If you wanted to and you had organic fertilizer, the granular type, you could sprinkle some down here and just mix it in if you wanted to. You just really don't need to. We're going to be using water soluble fertilizers. All right, let me get to the rest. All right, so I know it's confusing, and what I want to encourage you, if you're just getting started, bottom line is just fill the beds with earth. It can be whatever you dig up from around your home. You don't need any super special process. What I'm showing you is just a great way to set it up. 4 inches or so of shredded hardwood on the bottom. And remember, in the first video, I recommend doing that if we're building 10-inch, 12-inch raised beds with the sides, because that wood will be sitting down at the bottom away from the roots. A layer of manure, again, down at the bottom away from the plant roots. If you were building something, maybe you didn't want to do a framed bed, don't put the manure down. You just have to mound up some soil. Don't put the wood down, just mound up some soil. That's just a different technique, but you can grow that way too. So you don't need to have the 10 to 12 inch raised beds. I like them because they really let you put all your resources in one space. It looks nice and it's a lot easier to manage. Alright, so in here I have almost a full bag of peat moss in the back, and then another wheelbarrow full of dirt. So I'm going to mix that together by hand. You can use a shovel if you want. Now, because I did order garden soil, you might look at it and say that's pretty nice. So if you do order garden soil, you don't have to add in as much peat moss if you want to save yourself money. But if you're taking it, like if I was taking it from my garden around here, it's going to be a lot of red clay. If you're taking earth from usually, you know, your backyard and where you live, it's going to be a little bit heavier. So that's when I recommend doing that 50-50 peat moss and earth. And again, you could use coco coir. So let me mix that together. It's going to come up a little bit short, but you get the idea how to fill it. This is a 12-inch raised bed. You don't need to start that high, but this is the general principle. So here we are, pretty much done. Now again, this is a 12-inch sided 4x4 raised bed. That's probably the highest that I would build. So it's going to take a lot of soil. If you don't want to use the raised beds, or you don't want to put in that much, just go with the 10-inch raised bed. So we put down wood chips in the first video, about 4 inches, drop the beds on there. 1 bag of the cow manure or compost, whatever you want. I think we used the black cow. And then we dumped on just earth from around the area. I did use garden soil. And then we did 50% peat moss, a full bale of peat moss, another big barrel full of the garden soil or your earth, and this is what you end up with. We look, what we want to do is have it get to about within 2 inches of the sides up here. And the reason that we're doing that is because we're going to mulch down here with some shredded hardwood. So not quite there. You could throw in some of the bagged garden soil if you want. That I showed you in the beginning of the video. That's perfectly fine to do. You could throw in some more of your earth. It really doesn't matter. When we mixed the peat moss and the second wheelbarrow full together, you're not mixing it all the way down into the first layer of dirt you put in. That first layer of dirt, just leave it alone, let it be as it is. Plant roots will grow in there, they'll be perfectly fine. It'll save you a little bit of work. You're just going to mix the next pile of dirt with the peat moss. Gives you a nice layer. Peat moss and coco coir have no nutritional value. It's not feeding your garden at all. It's not feeding the plants at all. What it does is it provides some nice consistency to your soil, keeps it nice and loose, and it holds moisture. That's the basic setup. You can vary from this. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this is that you don't have to go crazy spending money. You don't need to put in 1,000 different kinds of amendments. You just need to get your earth into here. And then when we plant, so please subscribe, I'll do planting next. We're going to do lettuces and peas. That's when we'll put in the fertilizer. We'll concentrate the more expensive resources to where we're planting, and the garden will do really well. Then over time, we add compost, other amendments, and the soil gets better and better. And this is going to be a no-dig garden. Once we fill it, we just let it be. We take plants out when they die off. We put new plants in, new seeds in when we need to, and we just let the earth sit as it is and let nature do its thing. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and to this playlist. It's called, I believe, Building and Growing Your Garden. So this is for new people, and if you want to learn something, go ahead and follow. And also check out my seed shop. I sell everything you need to grow at therustedgarden.com. Thanks for watching.